I'm okay. I'm totally fine.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to Topic Tuesday, where I discuss my thoughts on a specific topic while you enjoy me drawing a related image in time-lapse. Today's topic is about creating a scenario. Now, a scenario in this sense is about comics, or even images you can have. Like for a single image, the scenario would simply be what's in the image, what's happening, and what's going on. Like a single image could be of a person in a fight pose. You could come up with a scenario behind that. Like, why is he fighting? Who's he fighting? Is he angry fighting? Is he play fighting? And stuff like that. Is he protecting somebody? Is he in the middle of a battle? That could relate to the background. But we're going to focus on comic book scenarios or story scenarios. The way I do it is I follow the basic 3-act structure. Which is essentially the beginning, the middle, and the end. Or the status quo, the disruption, and then the return to status quo. When I was in college, I was taught about this when it came to script writing and story writing, that most films follow the 3-act structure. Plays, you get more acts in because the various things. And it's the same as writing novels or chapters. Each chapter has a 3-act structure to it, but it's only 1 act of the overall story. If you're writing a book, like for me, when I write fan fiction, I write each chapter with its own, and comic books, each chapter with its own 3-act structure: the beginning, the middle, the end. In many cases, it's take NHC for instance. I'll start off with what's the status quo, whether it's reintroducing the moment we left at the last chapter, or if we've skipped ahead of time, what's currently happening in the world at that moment. And it could be anything from still stood there, still waiting. That's the status quo. That is the world that I'm introducing to you in that scene, in that chapter. And then the second act being the disruption to the status quo, the chaos. What event alters the status quo? Sometimes it's a continuation of something. Like if it's a multiple chapter book or comic strip, the disruption could be continuation. You go straight from the first act to the second act in a blink, you could say. You've established what's the status quo of the moment. What changes? Who makes the first step to the fight? Who makes the first conversation piece? What changes the status quo to something else, to make people act? Another way of describing the second act is the moment of change. What forces? Like in a lot of stories, it's like Act 1. There's the hero. You establish he's a nice guy. You establish this is his life. And then it comes to Act 2. What disrupts that life? What did the villain do to push him forward to go on the adventure for the rest of the story? And then finally into Act 3, what happens? How does it conclude? In the hero story, it would probably, how does he get to the villain? How does he defeat the villain? It doesn't actually incorporate just the end. It's everything that leads to the end. A Act 2 to Act 3 transition could be at the end of Act 2, the hero fails. He is on his adventure and he gets beaten, but he escapes. So then Act 3 is him learning from his mistakes and moving forward into the end part. Now, in a comic chapter or a storybook chapter with the 3-act structure, the beginning, as I said, could be just anything, either a follow-on from the previous chapter or just establishing what's starting in the chapter, what is the norm, and then you go into, say, a fight or a big conversation or something that's integral to the story to move it forward. It could be the big plot twists, it could be the big moments, the key moments of the story within that chapter, and then at the end of the chapter, it's how that chapter has affected the characters in that story or affected the world around them. How it's like it could be in NHC, like I said, the fight scene, where you go from you're still in the fight scene, to actually having the fight, and then either winning the fight or something happens in that fight that pauses the fight. It could be somebody spoken something, could have reminded them of something, or maybe character A has defeated character B, but character B won't give up and declares their intention, and then end of the chapter, because it's like you're leaving on a cliffhanger. It's like, okay, you may have beaten me, but you haven't given up, and they escape, or they power up, kind of thing. Okay, and then next chapter, I'm gonna beat you, and then you start the next chapter all over again. In what you're seeing on the screen at the moment, since I've already drawn it, is just a quick 3-page structure that I came up across that I wanted to make, just rough. I don't know if I'll ever finish making it or not. I just wanted the basic, you want to start with the basic premise of the scenario that you want. In this case, I came up with, okay, I want a Narahina kissing scene. I have to then figure out, well, why are they going to kiss? How are they going to kiss? Where are they? I decided I'm going to set this scenario on a date, a beginning of a date. They've just met, or maybe they're meeting outside somewhere. Maybe they've got to discuss something. Maybe there's something going on. And because I haven't designed the words for this, so I just kind of literally, as you're watching it, I'm literally making it up as I go along, which is a good way of doing things, but not the best way of doing things. If you want to do things quickly, writing it up in a fluid motion is one way to do it, and then you just kind of make up things as you go along. But in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so they're going to be on a date. So I want, rather than being in a building, I want them outside. So I'm going to set it outside. And the first thing that popped in my head is Naruto waiting for Hinata. I wanted a nice reveal of Hinata. That's the status quo. Page 1, status quo, Act 1. You know, he's waiting for Hinata. She shows up. That leads into Act 2. What disrupts the status quo of him waiting is Hinata arriving. Page 2, she's sat down. They're talking. There's an embarrassment. Something has happened between them. It's something that, you know, or maybe she's shy and he's trying to bring her out of the shyness and relax a bit more. Yeah, and so she gets more comfortable with him. End of page 2, end of Act 2. Act 3, she is now comfortable with Naruto. They're getting romantic. It's a good start to the date. They kiss. And end of Act 3. That could be a chapter. I could spread it out, yes, obviously. But just to show that this 3 pages just shows the 3-act structure as it flows. You can, if you look at it, you can identify where each act starts and begins. But at the same time, you don't want to be able to just say, okay, this starts here, this starts here. Not in a chapter. You want it to flow from one act to the next smoothly without interruption. But that's on a chapter. In a story or in a comic, that's how you want it to do. 3-act structures over a long story, like a multiple chapter or a serial or a TV series or anything, you want identifiable acts to be seen. Like in a TV show, let's say The Flash, you've got season 1 where the first part of the series, the first episode is showing the status quo. The first half is, okay, he's a guy, he's normal, he has this romantic feelings for this girl. He's a bit of a loser. He can't run very fast, but he's very justice orientated. So you get to introduce this character, and then Act 1 ends when he gets hit by lightning. Act 2 for the entire series begins when he wakes up in the cortex at Star Labs. The status quo has changed. He's been hit by lightning. He's starting to change. He's starting to realise who he is. He's got these powers. And basically for the rest of the episode, the rest of the series, he's kind of like learning how to do that. But in the first episode, what then becomes the new norm of that episode is when he becomes the Flash. When he realises, okay, I'm going to use these powers for good. That's the 3rd act of that episode. But of the series, the 2nd act is still going on because you've established a new norm, but he's still going through changes throughout the series. And then Act 2 literally starts and ends when the man in yellow beats it. When he meets the man in yellow again and he gets beaten. Because, he's been looking for him all along, but this is a new thing. He's gotten used to his powers. He's started to establish a new norm, a new baseline for his life. But then this big interruption comes and this is a second. You could call it technically a third act of a 4 to 5 act structure as well, because you can add in multiple acts, but on a normal 3 act structure, this is where it would be. It's a long thing, and then the rest of the series is him getting better, is him improving, and then beating the Man in Yellow, also known as the Reverse Flash. Now, with that, you can, like I said, you can also make it a 5 to 6 act thing, because you can have it where, because the 5 act structure is a bit more in depth. It still starts with the original first act where you have a status quo. You go into a second act where it's the hero getting used to his powers. The third act being the hero being used to his powers, but then because of getting used to it, something else happens. The fourth act is him reacting to what happened in the third act and improving and getting close to his goal. And then the fifth act, coming up against the main villain and defeating the villain, or so on and so forth. But yes, that's how I think about creating scenarios, how I work, and how I use the 3 act structure to my advantage. Again, you can use multiple act structures if you want to look at that, but that's a bit more complicated, and I only really want to focus on the 3 act structure. Have you ever heard of the 3 act structure before? Have you considered, do you write yourself? What kind of things do you like to write about? Do you like writing action? Do you like writing fantasy? Do you like writing sci-fi? Tell me, comment below. I'd like to hear your opinions. Do you think the 3 act structure is limited? Do you prefer the 5 act structure? But yeah, comment below and anything that you want to say. I'll try and read them all, even if it's just to say hi, or you want to give tips or anything, critique on how these videos are going, if you'd like to see improvements or what you would like for me to talk about next time. Again, comments below, and if you want to talk to me on social media, all my links are in the description. You'll find me on Twitter. I'll probably again be announcing ideas for the Topic Tuesday on my Twitter, so if you want to have ideas, keep an eye on my Twitter, and you can probably get your topic that you want me to talk about put on there. I can only choose one topic, so I will choose what I would like to talk about. Whether it's like stuff like this, which is kind of like tutorial almost, or if it's like on a specific anime or film you want me to talk about, I will consider that as well. I mean, it might be whatever catches my interest. But yes, give me as many comments or many ideas as you can. And if you like this video, please leave a like by hitting the thumbs up. And if you would like to keep up to date on when I post a video, then feel free to hit the subscribe button. But for now, thank you for watching and enjoy your day.